nothing is wrong, but your body is asking a different question than it used to. Hey everyone, it's Rosemarie. Welcome to Second Opinion. This is a show where we talk about real life in midlife, not health as a checklist, but how hormones, food, stress, work, and identity, all of it intersect inside the body that you're living in now. As a healthcare professional and journalist, here's what experience makes clear. When women enter perimenopause and menopause, the rules don't disappear, but they do change a little bit. Today's conversation is for the woman who's eating well, staying active, showing up, doing all the things, and still feels off in ways she quite just can't pinpoint. Let's get into it. My guest today, I'd like to welcome back Sarah Lynn Wayne. Sarah is a holistic nutritionist, a wellness consultant who also works primarily with women in midlife, especially perimenopause. And she came to this work through her own honest experience. In her early 40s, when her body stopped responding the way it had always had, she chose curiosity over force. Today, Sarah blends nutrition science, nervous system awareness, and her own experience to help women work with their biology, not against it. Sarah, welcome back to Second Opinion. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rosemarie. It's great to be back.
It was such a delight. And for anybody who did not catch that episode, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how it relates to the conversation today.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in functional nutrition for almost 20 years, and I've worked in clinics and doctors' offices, chiropractors, taught classes all over the Bay Area, San Francisco, and just really felt I was on top of my game with health and nutrition and taking care of myself and self-care. And like you said, when perimenopause hit me, it was just like nothing worked anymore. Nothing made sense. And I had to go digging a little deeper than just, changing a few things here and there with my protocols and my food. I had to really get clear about what my body was asking for, because I was getting a lot of input from professionals and doctors and healers and people that I trusted, but it didn't always land and it didn't always serve me. I actually found some of the advice I would get would make me worse, even if it seemed grounded in like, here's what the tests say, here's what, is the right standard thing to do. My body just reacted differently. So I had to really get clear about what it was asking for. And that's why I'm here, is to support women in turning back to themselves, to hear what their body is genuinely needing from their biochemical individuality, and being able to navigate a very complex system in a complex period in their life with more ease and more grace.
I could not believe how frustrating, like you, doing all the things, right? You're educated, you know your body, and then nothing works. And then you're turning to people. I'll just never forget. Remember like the Fitbits? Remember like oh my God, mine fell off
Back
with Divine.
Steps. Oh my God.
So I hired a trainer. I'm telling you, this thing got lost in New York City, someplace by divine intervention. It was green. I'll never forget. He could track everything because he was logged into my account, and he, a very good trainer. I had left California, came back to New York. Anyway, I was back and forth, start working out with this trainer who was telling me to like eat these foods at like all these times when I am not naturally hungry. Like I'm not hungry when I first wake up. I'm not hungry. But you have to eat an egg. You got to do this before you go to bed. You got to eat this. And like I said, one day I looked up and the Fitbit was gone. And I'm like, well, imagine that. This is like, God stepped in and was like, you're done with this thing. And
right.
It was hilarious. But it was like, I noticed it was gone. I'm like, you cannot make this up. This was not meant to be. Why you think? I love that story because it was so true. I'm like, I'm done with this thing and my fitness pal. It's all great tracking all this stuff, but it got to the point where it was more irritating because I felt like it wasn't working and I was doing all these things. But why do you think perimenopause and everything that comes along with it like sneaks up on women? We know it's coming. Like we're aware, or we talk amongst our peers, but then all of a sudden it's here and we're like, what in the world?
Yeah, it does, right? It's like you get to this place where when your body hormones are fluctuating at such a rapid pace, it's like, first of all, you can't think straight. That's usually the first thing that goes is your mind, right? I think that's what I hear from most women is that there's a degree of, I should say, like brain fog. There's a degree of memory loss or anxiety that part starts happening. And it's like, you sometimes can't even think your way out of a paper bag. So it's like, you don't have access to the full faculties of like thinking things through, but then it does become a matter of like a deeper wisdom. Your body is changing. So genuinely, the things that brought you health in your 20s and 30s aren't necessarily going to be the things that bring you health later. So you have to make some changes. And I think some women can be really stuck in their like day to day, like I do this is what I do. This is how I eat. These are the supplements I take, especially women who are like committed and go-getters, right? And like they want to do the right things. But if your body genuinely needs a different degree of macros and a different level of exercise or movement, or you have a level of stress that now because your adrenals are being drawn on, if you had, not taken care of your adrenals throughout your 20s and 30s, which I can relate to that. I'm sure a lot of women who are like in their careers, doing a lot of things, maybe not doing everything healthy, neglecting their health, your adrenals and your thyroid need to really become at the forefront of taking care of your body as your ovaries start to decline in their hormone making ability. So it's like, depending on what you did all up in your 20s and 30s, I think has a real significant effect on how you go into perimenopause, right? Because some women don't even notice it. They're like, I'm good. No, maybe feel a little hot here and there. And then some women, it's like me, you feel like your life just got turned upside down.
Yeah. And I feel like you were very healthy and I lived in California. Everyone, for the most part, California is very health conscious. I think the way of life overall in California. But even with that, I felt like, wow, like I can't imagine if I didn't take care of myself, how I would feel. Because I was pretty good with eating, juicing, doing all the things, made my own teas, and I still felt lousy. I just can't imagine if I didn't. Or is it because you are so healthy, then you feel these changes?
I think there's a lot of factors, right? Something that I'm seeing a trend in like a lot of the stories, because I see a lot of women, they share things with me that they wouldn't share with anyone, not even their therapist sometimes. And what I've seen as a trend with this is that genuinely there is a huge wake-up call in their life as well. Like whether it's with the partner they're not supposed to be with or where they're living or their career, yes, there's stuff internal that has to be addressed physiologically, but I find that there's always a mismatch in their world in some way. And it's like your body is going to get your attention no matter what. Like this is your time to go within. Or I think this is why we don't care as much. We tend to have less of a filter. I don't know about you, but I lost my filter with my husband.
Very much.
Poor guy, but he, navigated through that. You start to realize like, where have I been denying myself a level of just like taking care of myself and also asserting my boundaries or my voice in a way? Like there's a lot, I think, that has to be reckoned with in ourselves.
It's interesting that you brought that up because I always look at like our moms, our grandmothers, what menopause was like for them and what did they go through. I actually had a conversation with a doctor who said it's really hard. Like just because your mom went through transition one way doesn't mean it's kind of a myth. So I thought that was interesting. But I think about them, how menopause was different for them and then for us. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like working with your clients, just how the whole ideology has changed with that? Like, because I feel like too, maybe were they not in an environment or where I feel like maybe we more can express how we feel or there's more information. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think like how it's evolved through now, like in 2026.
That's a good question. And, I think the things that come to mind are, it's different. It is different for everyone because I've heard different conflicting stories around this where it's like their mom never talked about it. They didn't know what their mom experienced. It was kind of like just a non-thing. Like it was just not an awareness. But now looking back, you're like, oh, that's why mom got really upset with us all the time. Or that's why she just changed and was starting to not put up with any of our stuff. Like it, you can kind of look back and see the experience for some women. Like it's clear their mom was going through perimenopause, but didn't really communicate it. And so it was just an unknown. And then I've heard stories where, that just, it wasn't a big issue because things were so much more simple. Like you didn't have all this input from things calling your attention and being stressed at the level I think that we can allow ourselves to be stressed this day and age. Like no question, right? There's so much, if you want to lock onto something out there that's not going well, that's pretty easy to do, right?
Yeah.
So, and that raises our cortisol. And the whole thing with how women, I think, run on such adrenaline and cortisol spikes more than ever through our thinking, our food, our activities, our work. I just don't think it, if you like really look at it, there's a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
Our mother's generation and then where we are today.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about too? I was having another conversation. I'd love to get your input as a nutritionist because I feel like food in general, when, our generations before us, the food was more pure. There was less contaminants. Everything was homemade. Nothing was processed. But yet we have all this food, right? We've got organic. We've got all these things. I don't know. It's just interesting to me how they had all these, and believe me, I'm all about diet, exercise, natural, but we're just trying to figure out how eating plays a part. Because I feel like they had pure food, but yet for some reason they tended, or we thought, I guess, growing up, they seem to be older, where I feel like, or is it just because we're this age, we don't feel old, so therefore we don't see ourselves as old. But it seems like, I don't know, with all the technology, it's just like, why? I mean, yes, even outside of fillers and Botox and all these other things that you can manufacture, like sticking to the food. Like, I just wanted to know your thoughts on what you think of what we ate, what women ate then versus what we eat now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So just how the food has changed and evolved and things. I think, yeah, that's that is a whole topic in itself. But this is a really important topic too, because it's not the same. It's literally, when I was in nutrition school 20 years ago, we were comparing the nutrient value of like a cup of spinach back in the 50s versus a cup of spinach in the 90s, early 2000s, significantly less micronutrients. The minerals in the soil have been just depleted. So if you're not regenerating soil, carrot's not a carrot that used to be. Like the nutrient levels literally are not the same. So you think you're eating, this is just what my grandparents ate. We eat the same amount, but it's not the right amount of nutrients that your body needs to thrive, to regenerate. And minerals are like the base thing. I think if anything, that's the biggest thing that shifted is we're mineral deficient at such a high level. And while, there's ways to counter that, a lot of people don't think about it, don't do that. And convenience has won out in a lot of ways for people's lives where just because it says organic, but it's packaged and who knows what else has been processed with it. I think we're eating something healthy, but our bodies can be really sensitive to the point where one little chemical disrupts the whole thing so that you don't actually get the nutrients from the food you're eating. When this is something I've noticed as an medical intuitive, just noticing people's energies, like really seeing the vibrancy of someone who truly eats healthy, alive, vibrant food or, meat that has been from a healthy source that's been treated well, like it's night and day. If you compare butter that's conventional to grass-fed butter, the omega value is like completely, it's just not even comparable. It's like one has almost no omega-3s. The other one is rich in omega-3s. So you see how it's like, it can be really deceiving. You're like, I'm just eating butter, but what kind? Where did it come from? Or there's so much more to go back to simple food, and the way we farmed everything out of the soil has just, it's showing up in our deficiencies.
We're so ahead. We have all these fancy grocery stores, but at the root of it, we're still not getting the quality that our parents or our grandparents have. But with all that said, like you said, that's a topic of food politics, but it's very interesting. Well, then how does eating in your 20s, 40s, and 50s, how does all this translate to real life?
Well, I think there's like a baseline, right? That we all need certain levels of nutrients and proteins, carbs and fats and all of that. That's all important. And I understand when people think calories are important, but it's really not it. This is what I've come to learn is like, stop counting calories, stop looking at the amount you're eating and look at the quality you're eating. You will fare far better and you'll be way less in your head about getting wrapped up in like the numbers per se, and more so listening to, wow, I feel good. I feel better. Does something give you more energy or does it take your energy away? Like that's a real practical way I think to look at it is keep a journal for a week of foods when you're eating. Just have some self-awareness. When I eat this, does my energy go up or down? That's going to tell you a whole lot right there. And just notice, do any symptoms come out? Like, does my stomach hurt a little? Do I get a headache? Do I feel like dry mouth? These are all cues that the food you just put in your body might not be serving you or might be exactly what you need. And it takes playing with it. Like sometimes, yes, you can have a great meal plan and eating all the right things, but there is a nuance to depending on how sensitive you are, right? Because some people who come to me are very sensitive. Everything can trigger their autoimmune and things can go awry real easily for their body. And some people are just like workhorses. They can put whatever in their body and they're fine. They're not going to, it's not going to faze them. But I'm talking to people who are a little bit more sensitive where you just want to have some reflection and self-awareness of tracking. I think there's so much to be gained from tracking things for a while, but hence like losing your Fitbit, right? It's like eventually you get to the place where you got to stop tracking it all. Like just be in the flow with what feels right. But I'm all about getting some data up front. So there's a lot of amazing apps now where you can just take a picture of your food and it'll tell you what's going on with it. You can get a chronometer, and just tracks for a little while and just see how much protein am I getting in my meals? How balanced is the carbs and the fat in it and things like that. And then you can get a sense of like, yeah, I just do better when I have a more high rich protein breakfast. For me, that was like the huge thing. I had to stop eating oatmeal for breakfast and I had to switch to eggs and meat. That was actually, and cottage cheese. Those were the things that would give my brain the power to come on again. So I hope that answers the question a little bit.
It does, because I always say like brain food. For me, like avocado, eggs, same, like the oatmeal situation. If I'm someplace I have it, I'll add nuts or something to it. I was put on these plans, like in case anybody's listening, is probably feeling this, where this is not working. But on paper, it was supposed to work. Do you think that's where like a lot of women are going wrong? Or it just seems like there's so many women struggling with what they're...
Yeah. I think we get lost in a couple things. One is there's just so many messages out there that are conflicting. So you just sort of guess and try. But then there's also how much we might have messed up our gut biome. And that's going to make it really difficult to discern what's good or not for your body. Because if your microbiome or you have toxicity levels that are out of control or mold, things like that are going to affect your brain and your gut access. And you won't always make the best choices. You're going to eat to keep feeding that bacteria that's not serving you. So that's why we get cravings. That's why it's hard to kind of kick things, especially who have a sugar addiction. And sugar addiction doesn't always look like eating sweets and candy. It can look like eating lots of bread, lots of pasta, lots of, just things that like even lots of nuts can also be triggering to too much gut imbalance. So things that we think are healthy, right? But I think that's where it can be really confusing. So there's a lot to be said about just giving yourself a reset. And I did this recently, actually over the holidays. I did 4 days of just liquid cleansing, a fast. Basically, it was just bone broth, water, and some lemon water. And some people do a water fast, and that's great too, because what happens is you reset your gut, you reset your cells in their autophagy, like you allow things to kind of just release that haven't been able to release because you're spending so much time digesting. And I think now I wouldn't recommend that for everyone. It depends where your health is at. Like you have to make sure your blood sugars are stable, your liver and kidneys are functioning properly before you just go do something like that. So definitely, look at your levels, work with a trained professional, a medical professional. But if that's right for you, sometimes just letting go of food for a little while can really give you clarity when you step away from it. I don't know. Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever done like so long without food, whether it was like 2, 3 days, 4 days or longer.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I would go long periods of green juicing, or I'd juice for most of the day and I'd have like a nice salad protein for dinner or lunch, depending on what meal it was.
So you're still getting your minerals. You're letting your body get the minerals, the electrolytes and things from the juicing.
Yeah.
But it also, your digestive system's not having to process. So more of that can go to healing and rejuvenating your body that needs it, the areas that need it.
My mom made a lot of soup when we were growing up. She still makes batches of soup and sends it over to me. We grew up on that stuff. I've got bone broth in my fridge right now. Actually, she sent me home with some. How do you approach it?
Most of your hormones are made in your gut. I mean, that's where things all come together. And it is literally like a brain. It actually has more neurons than your brain. So it operates just like a brain and it gives feedback. So your brain and your gut are always giving feedback. And that's, I would say, the thing I start with every person is just what I call presence, like just being present to how are you feeling? What's your symptomology? What's going on? What are you experiencing? Whether the doctors say your labs are normal or not, that's not something we're going to worry about right now. We're going to just look at how do you feel? How do you want to feel? How do we get you to move into that direction so that you don't feel like you're trapped in your body? Because a lot of times that's how women feel. They feel like they're trapped. Their body's at war with them. And you've got to just actually, I would say step 0 is do nothing for 5 minutes. Like just be at peace as best you can. Just drop in and do nothing. We're so quick to go to the fix, right? We're so quick to what's the answer? What's the solution? But if we can just, I don't like to call it meditation. I mean, you could say it's a meditation, but it's more of just a being present. And sometimes I'll just drop in with a woman for a couple minutes and just listen and just let there be some silence, because wisdom comes through when you give it space. And I do believe we are all very wise to our own bodies, and nobody knows your body better than you, right? So when we can give ourselves some space to just listen, just feel, the things that can come through. I mean, the things that I hear women connect to, like the memories that from their past, or just realizing that, wow, that thing I thought I was doing to my body is actually not serving me anymore. I'm done with eating this way, or I'm getting a call to really go this direction and eat this way. And I like to promote listening and honoring that. Sure. Work with a professional, get some insight, because sometimes there's a lot of, like I said, if your gut's imbalanced, you can make not the best choices because you're choosing from a very imbalanced state anyway. But nonetheless, pause, be with yourself. And then from there, I love to look at tests. I love to look at the labs and just see, there's a lot we can do at home too, like just testing our blood sugars or testing our hormones. And, our cortisol level, just knowing these types of things, wearing something that does test your levels for a little while, one of the biometrics. I don't do that per se, but I do find it helps some people who really need to see those numbers to be like, oh, yeah, when I do eat that, my cortisol spikes. I get that. Okay. Or, oh, my blood sugar is really out of balance from this. And when you can get that level of awareness, then it becomes almost like an easier buy-in to make the changes, just depending on how attached you are to your way of doing things that might not be serving you.
Interesting. How do you help women reframe the way they feel about their body without dismissing them?
I love that you just said that. That's exactly it. Not dismissing that where they're at is, that's how they feel. I think so I teach a process that is about how to create the reality you want in your body. This is going to sound a little woo, but it is.
I'm here for it.
A manifestation technique that has served me very well in healing my body and helping others, as well as bringing all sorts of amazing things into my life. And it's the point of duality. It's a point of holding both perceptions. So how I think of it is you are consciousness, you are awareness of your body. You are not your body. And you can hold opposing experiences. One being the present reality. What you experience now might be, you've got 20 extra pounds you don't like that your skin is getting wrinkly, or there's all these things that, you could make a list and say, yeah, I'm not favoring that stuff. But to release the resistance to it and let it be okay. That's why it's the pause for just a few moments to just say, you know what, I'm just going to let this be completely okay and accept it. And I mean by just accepting this is the experience I'm having, and it is perfect just as it is. And I simultaneously am excited about this new vision for myself. So I did this a lot when I worked with people for weight loss for about 10 years, specifically at a clean eating company. I did supplements and training them on how to detoxify the body. And most people came in with weight challenges. So that technique alone would cause somebody to release weight that was not budging just by being completely okay with, yeah, I've got some extra pounds around my tummy and I am, I've got some stiffness and all this, and that's going to be okay right now. And that vision of the lean toned body, being able to, run that mile or whatever that vision is for. I'm just talking about physical, it could also be to move to this new location or to have a new career, whatever it is. It actually closes the gap and allows you to experience what you desire faster. That's just how reality, I have found, works.
And it sounds like then you're more inclined to make a positive change while you're in that excited state.
Yeah. I mean, you could say it's like you just learn to, I don't say you learn to, you practice loving your body just as it is. I had clients who would, be a very difficult practice. Like, what do you mean love my body when I think it looks gross? Yes. Like, I want you to, and in some ways, if it's really hard for you to do that, if you really have a lot of body shame and a lot of projection on yourself, one way to help soften that, I find, is to get a picture of yourself when you were like 5 and think about, would you say these things to that 5-year-old's body? Would you tell her, oh, your body's too fat, or you look horrible? Like, there's a consciousness in us that does not feel good about that, does not want to speak badly to our little child. That was also a technique that can really, really help bring in more love to your body just as it is, so that you can get on the same page together and release all that resistance to where you are and then move into more vitality, a body that you actually really visibly are excited to see in the mirror.
Is there something nutritionally that can help them anchor themselves as well?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm getting ready to put out some just fundamentals. And as I've been looking at what works across the board for everybody, it's so clear. There's 3 things. And the first one is you got to balance your cortisol. So looking at and I'll get to the food part with this, but honestly, if you find that your cortisol levels are getting spiked too much, especially they go up in the morning, having some protein within the first 30 minutes to an hour, dense protein, can really bring that cortisol down. If you try to go exercise or do things without food and your body's looking for those nutrients, especially because it's right now during perimenopause, you're drawing on so many different levels of your glands, your system, your organs need way more nutrients during this time than they did, when you weren't fluctuating so much in your hormones. And so making sure there is some dense protein in the morning. So that is a really fundamental thing. And you can choose based on what you resonate with. If you aren't eating meat, then combining lentils with some quinoa, that's going to give you a really good complete protein. But some, cottage cheese, a hard-boiled egg or 2, the idea is 20 to 30 grams if you wanted to give a range. And everyone's different, right? It depends in different days. It depends. Some days you're I really don't feel like something, but that's where I'd say, maybe just make sure you get some minerals, or even if you don't want to eat because it's hard for you to fill your stomach, get something in you that has high nutrition, like some minerals, which could be coconut water or some lemon water, just minerals. If that's going to feed you. You need something to work with, something for your body to actually, otherwise you start getting catabolized. Literally your tissues will start eating, your bones will start leaching, and that's what happens. That's why our bone density goes down during this time, is you're drawing out so much of the minerals, and women have severe bone loss during perimenopause if they're not replacing and getting enough of the nutrients. So that's why it's let's just start there. Are you, within the first hour, are you getting 20 to 30 grams of protein in your body most days? And then leaving some space for that nuance of intuition, right? Today I need to wait a little longer. I'm going to just go with a juice because that feels right.
And that's
But
primarily to help with your cortisol, help with the stress. I feel like knowing that is very useful. Then it makes it more meaningful than, oh, I just have to eat this protein. But if knowing it's going to help your cortisol level, adding that will help people know why. How about protein powders? Is that okay? Because I'm like, how am I going to get my protein? I drink coffee. So I've been adding protein powder to my little frother with my cream. And I'm like, well, I'm amping it. I'm trying. I don't know. Somebody could be cringing listening to this, but I don't know if that's like a good idea. I'm just experimenting right now.
yeah, well, I think it could be. But the foundational piece we have to just state here is that a lot of protein powders are crap and they have toxins in them. I'm just going to say that.
Okay, good.
Heavy
Yeah.
metals. And I've read the reports. I've read the studies of just the heavy metals that are found, the denaturedness of the food. It's not really quality. A lot of them are really just kind of, so I helped formulate, I'll speak just so you know my background, but I helped formulate protein powders and green drinks and omega supplements. Like I did that for a while. So I really got to see the nuance of ingredients and where they're sourced and like just how they assimilate in the body. And a lot of it's not great. And so if you're there are a few I've found. So I used to love protein smoothies every day. And then I got into eating more whole foods. Just it feels better for me. But I like to bring it in a little bit and also for my daughter to get some nutrients. And I found there are a few good protein powders on the market who have third-party testing. So just look for that. Look for, do they have third-party testing for heavy metals? That's probably going to be just a good buffer. So you're at least making a better choice. And then the type of protein it is. Some people do great with whey and some people don't. It causes digestive issues. Some people do good with pea. Some people not so good, right? Like if you're getting gas and bloating after you have it, that's a sign it's not digesting. It's not serving you well. So you could actually be losing minerals because of how much it pulls out of your system just to try to process it. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
You think you're putting in the nutrients, but you're actually getting them siphoned out of you because your body's like, I need to get this out. It's not really food. A little tip, and I don't know, some people might cringe at me saying this, but you can just throw some seeds in a blender with your stuff. Like I take a handful of pumpkin seeds now and I throw it in when I do want to make a smoothie, and you're getting all the, and some flax seeds and some chia seeds. And it's like you can build your own protein smoothie just by throwing it in a high powered blender and not spending a lot on all these. But I do find that, is it okay to share a name of a brand, or I'm not affiliated with them or anything? But Ancestral Minerals is a bone broth type of protein powder. And I've found that one actually really does it has tested for third party. It's pretty clean. And I find a lot of people do well with it. So, there are some, like I said, out there. I don't want to just like drop names, but do your research. And there's also something to be said too about chewing our food. Like it does a lot to chew and what it releases in the body with your food to digest and help turn on digestion versus taking in lots of liquids all the time. I'm not saying don't do it, but just
Sure.
There's a nuance to be aware of around like just blending a whole bunch of things together and then having your body assimilate and digest that. Sometimes, depending on what's going on with your digestive system, you might need to do more of a mono meal, where you're just having simple foods and keeping it pretty like one or two things so that you can digest it better.
Okay, that's really helpful. So that's, like you said, one was focusing on the cortisol. Then what was the second portion?
So the second would be blood sugar, which kind of connects to also getting the food. So if your blood sugars are going up and down, you're going to have brain fog, you're going to have cravings, like you're going to gain extra weight. Like it's just same with the cortisol, right? So the blood sugar and making sure that you're stabilizing yourself. It's great to check in, do like a week of blood sugar testing. You can get at home prick your finger and just like really get a sense what meals are spiking my blood sugar, which ones are not. Ideally, you're giving yourselves the appropriate timing and eating and spacing out food in a way that keeps yourself regulated. I can't say what that looks like for you because it could be different, but in general, having a 3 to 4 hour window of like not eating food is very helpful to give yourself full digestion. I would not say that to someone who has severe blood sugar issues because you may need to get to the regulated space. But yeah, I would say really making sure how you're eating is for your blood sugar control. And the third thing is toxicity or inflammation. It's just, we've been talking about the quality of the foods, right? Like it's not just eating a carrot or a smoothie and the smoothies have different levels of toxicity, and the heavy metals that are in things today is just disruptive. It's an endocrine disruptor. It disrupts your hormones. And so the more you can support natural detoxification by supporting your gallbladder, your liver, your kidneys, flushing out things and not putting in more toxins than you can handle in all the different ways, whether it's through food, the air, the environment, what you put on your skin. I know it's a lot, but I have a feeling, if people who tend to have like a lot of health issues are open and they will look at all this stuff because they know how little changes can make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. Everything compounds on each other. Since we're still at the beginning of the year, how do you do all these little things at once? Because it takes so long to create a habit. Even for people who are more health focused, still adding another thing in, it can be a little tricky.
And I still fall off things that I knew, I've had things that were serving me well. I was doing great with eating certain things or taking the right supplements. And even I will sometimes conveniently forget.
Yeah.
Or just decide, you know what, I don't want to focus on being perfect today. And that's fine. Giving ourselves grace. And sometimes the way I see it as I might eat something or, that sourdough bread at the store just looks a little too good. And I know how it makes me feel, but I just get it anyway. And I just see it's more information. It's just information. Like now I know, okay, I'm going to space that out even longer. Or no, that brand just doesn't do it for me. I've really got to make sure I have this brand or this one of this level quality. And I do see my food as medicine. Like I will spend twice as much on something, granted I'm privileged to be able to do that. But I think spending a little more money on quality food, if you can do that, goes a very long way. I say pay your grocer now or
your medical bill later.
Pay your medical bills later, right?
Yeah. Oh, by far, that's my biggest when I add up my expenses at the end of the month. I mean, it is a big, and I'll do without so I can have better food. I don't need fancy designer things, but I like good food. I don't need 50 pairs of shoes.
With you, Rosemarie. Yeah, that's my abundance right there. Yeah, how much can I just buy what I want with my food versus all clothes and all that? Give me some really quality food.
Exactly. And any day, but for sure, I'll put my money on food. Some people like good alcohol, what have you. But where does alcohol, even clean alcohol, play a part in all of this as well?
Yeah. So I also don't drink much at all anymore. I used to have a few drinks here and there, but I never was a big drinker.
Right.
But I will say this. When I went to Philadelphia to take a course called What to Do About Your Brain Injured Child, because I have a daughter who's 9 with a severe brain injury, I had to explore all the things to help her heal that brain. And this class that I took is a week-long class. It's like a setup where you are learning how to diagnose brain injury to be used only with your child, but it's the training that medical doctors, neurologists, neuroscientists, they all come together to create this training for us parents. And the thing that really stuck with me was in their studies and in their, when the doctors were really looking at how everything affects the brain over their I think this organization has been around for 90 years now. And every single doctor and scientist, when they were going through the testing of what foods, what chemicals, what things affect the brain and how they respond, alcohol was one of the worst, even just a little bit. The way it causes brain injury just by having a little amount of alcohol had all of them stop drinking.
Wow.
So none of the doctors on the board would drink anymore once they saw what it does to the brain. So it robs it of the oxygen. It has such a diminishing return. So now to have a drink here and there or have a little bit of, people might say tequila and vodka are the cleanest alcohol. So if you have a little bit of that, you're not spiking your blood sugar. You're doing a lot less harm than you could if you had a big margarita with lots of sugary stuff in it, right? There's nuances to that, But what it does to your brain is just not worth it in the long run. And so, yeah, I'm sure one drink your body can repair. Absolutely. That's the cool thing about neuroplasticity and your body being able to regenerate if it's in optimal state. But I'd be careful. And even just that one glass of wine can really do a number on your blood sugar, on how your thyroid functions, and just it can mess up your endocrine system. So yeah, I would have an honest look at that with yourself. And if you can't go like a couple weeks without it at all, then there's a whole nother thing to really consider too, right? Like, so I think with any substance, anything, even good things, to give yourself a break from it and see, like, when I add it back, do I feel better or do I feel worse? That's always a good litmus test.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that class that you took and the information that you gained from that. To each their own.
We get
no
to live our
judgment.
lives.
Exactly. For me,
Yeah.
I just can't.
But awareness, right?
It's
I
awareness.
think informed consent is like, to me, that is duty of care, is just to share what's available.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Looking back too, I don't think it ever agreed with me. I always say, oh, as I got older, I really couldn't handle it. But everybody just did because you were in your 20s. That's how you socialize. Now it's actually more socially acceptable. They actually said that drinking is down. The amount of alcohol consumption is definitely lower than it has been in a long time. And I know in New York, there's mocktail bars. There's places, it's much more in fashion to not
I don't know
drink.
where I heard this, but I did hear.
Did you hear that as well?
I did actually hear
Yeah.
something passing around that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's like, because that's the space I'm in, so I'm aware of that. But I feel like I've read that in a couple places, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Do you have clients that you work with that are on GLP-1s? And if so, like, how do you handle that?
So I don't have direct experience with, well, actually, I take that back. There are some clients I've had who've had peptides, like even just other peptides that they've been taking for other reasons. And I also have used amino acid therapy in my practice. So just so we know, like, when you're talking about GLP-1, it's the brand label could be Ozempic or other things, that it's really just they're peptides that come from amino acids, right? They're groups of amino acids that create peptides, and peptides are forming blocks for protein. So essential to life, right? Like, they're very important. And I know some people personally who use them, and some have great results. Some it's been questionable, like if it's been really helping them. So I know on a personal level, people using them and their experience. And I've also done a research just from a few different experts in that field. And what it sounds like is that there's huge potential when you have just the right dose for the right conditions and the right, the body, like being aware of what your body needs. But because it's kind of been a free-for-all and the Wild West right now with everyone jumping into this, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I saw it everywhere. Everyone was talking about it a few years ago. It was all over the place. And I'm always discerning a bit with like, is this good or not good? Like, why is there such an opposing viewpoints on this? And this is what I think it comes down to, is just lack of awareness for how to prescribe, lack of awareness for how to titrate, and not understanding minimal effective dose. So there's the person I came across who I feel has a lot of wisdom and a lot to glean from her like practice experience is Dr. Tina Moore. She has had incredible success with microdosing the GLP-1s and other peptides as well, but specifically GLP. She's found that like people give way too much. People try to take them on a really high titration because that's what the studies showed, is that's how you lost the weight. But a lot of times people don't lose weight from that because there's other things they have to consider. I don't know all the details in that way, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything that's needed to prepare your body to accept the GLPs. But I do know this, lifestyle plays a huge role. So if you aren't doing all the lifestyle things, eating right, sleeping, moving your body, building muscle mass, it can really do harm because it not only dissolves the fat, it dissolves the muscle. And when you're in perimenopause, you want to be building muscle because muscles, it's actually how you generate your metabolic health. It's how you, hold your structure, right? Like, it's important in all the things that go into the details of the blood circulating nutrients when you have proper muscle development. So I don't know if that kind of weaves in some awareness around that for you, but if you want to ask more, happy to dive in a little bit deeper.
It sounds like eating they're eating a lot less, but getting that nutrient value, still choosing good quality foods.
Yes.
It sounds like you were trying to say,
Exactly it. You can't just keep eating like Pop-Tarts and, soda and think that you're going to be healthier. Like, just know you're going to pay for it. Like, you have to put nutrients into your body that it can use to have building blocks. So yeah, it's not an excuse for eating poorly. And that is, I think that's the biggest pattern disrupt with the weight loss world field. Is that just because you're losing weight doesn't mean you're getting healthier, right? And that, we have to get out of that mindset of we want to get our body to the proper or just the most optimal physiology, so that we can feel good in it, so that we can live our life. And for some, it's going to look different. And I know this can be really skewed, and women get really hung up in their body looking a certain way. But I like to think of it this way. My 60-year-old self will thank me for making sure I get the nutrients and developing the muscles and just putting the right things in my body. And if we can think about that, like how we're going to age into it, then I think with taking the things that really inhibit our eating, which is not necessarily bad. You can use it to your advantage to kind of reset how you think about food. And some people get really obsessed with thinking about food all the time. And I think it can pattern interrupt that. But just to emphasize the point with an exclamation mark, make sure it has nutrient value. Make sure you've got dense nutrition.
Eating for health is different than say, you're trying to lose weight. It's like going to be your optimal self to feel good. I think, and if you feel good, then yourself, you look like what you see in the mirror. I do think you need to measure, because you do to a point, because what you measure, it's so contradictory because what you measure can change, but then you get on the scale. The scale is not going to look the same, right? It's but you'll feel better, you'll have more stamina, but the scale's going to go up. So don't get stuck on that. I'm having my coaching, myself through all this.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. And that's a tall glass. I got to be honest. When I was doing detox classes, I was teaching a course called 28 Days to Health. And I would take people through in person a 4-week transformational experience where they would come in and we would weigh them with a Tanita scale, like a full metabolic scale where you could see, water, fat, bone density, all of that, impedance, so that you got a full picture of what their body was doing. Because if you just have a scale that just shows you the number of your weight in, pounds or kilos, that is so overarching, and it misses so much of the nuance of what happens when your body composition changes. And we would see this. This is such a typical thing that when you start changing your body composition, sometimes you need to hold on to more water. You've actually lost fat, but you're gaining more water because your body's getting ready to flush, and it'll flush out the toxins. And people think, oh my God, I'm gaining weight. I must be doing something wrong. But that composition is very important. And also, if you're putting on muscle mass, right? Muscle weighs more than fat, 3 times. So you lose a pound of fat and gain a pound of muscle. It's very different body composition, right? So that is important. In fact, if someone is a little tied to the scale, I'd say, make sure you don't weigh yourself more than once a week. Don't get too tied to the daily ups and downs. It's not good for your sanity. For most people, I don't have an attachment to it. I've never been obsessed with my weight, but it's just always been an interesting thing. So I can't, from a lived experience, say I know what it feels like to feel that obsession, but I've seen it. I've walked people through it, hundreds of people through it, in fact, and I find it's way more common that people are obsessed with the scale. So that's why I with love say, just once a week, no more than that.
Yes.
And unless you're testing something for a bit and you want to kind of monitor yourself for a few days in a isolated experience, great. But for a long period of time, let it go and just pay attention to quality, taking care of yourself. How do your clothes fit?
Okay. Well, you were just talking about the program that you took people through, but I also know you have another program where you eat for brain fog and menopause. So how are they same and different? Or are they? How do they compare?
Yeah. So quite different in that the eating for health for 4 days was specifically focused on losing toxins and body composition. The brain fog reset, so it's a 3-day brain fog reset. And I guide you through how to, what we just talked about, balance, first of all, being present, really tuning into listening to your body, knowing how to look at your labs, look at your numbers in a way so that you can take a bit of ownership and not just feel outsourced to, because sometimes you'll have a doctor say, your labs are fine. But from a functional perspective, you might be out of range for your body's composition and it might not be healthy. So I want to teach people that. And then on this next level, the second phase of it is, looking at your identity. How do you identify in your body? How do you choose to talk about your body? These things matter. Like it really matters the frame of mind you're in around your health and around being in a body. It's going to dictate so much of what you are capable of doing and what you like, how long you can stick to something versus self-sabotage. That's a really important factor. And then, only then, once you've done that work, then you're ready to release and purify and let go of the inflammation and the toxins from a much more conscious, aware place of your body. So I take people through that process because I don't want to necessarily be your crutch where like, here's all the foods and the supplements you need to take. But if I can teach you how to really listen to and discern from the inside and the outside what your body needs, it's going to be so much easier for you to adapt during this really fluctuating phase where, some way of eating might be right for you right now with eating so much protein or, not eating this food or eating that food. And then a few months from now, you might find I'm done with that. I don't need that anymore. I need to do this, or knowing how to check in on yourself too and realize, okay, these supplements are really going to help fuel me and support me through this transition. But now that I'm through it, I don't need it anymore. And just to check in. So the 3-day brain fog reset is really about helping you listen to your body and then doing those foundational things with cortisol, blood sugar, and toxicity that are going to give you the foundation so that if you decide to take supplements or if you decide to do hormone replacement therapy or peptides, you've got the foundation to support a real transformation to really get the benefit from it. You can think clearly, you have your focus and your faculties back, because I really don't believe that we have to let that go. But there's also being at peace with the transition and the symptoms that you might be experiencing for a very valid reason as well.
I know. I'll tell you, you said making peace with it. Yeah, there's one side where you're fighting it, and then it's like finding that balance of this is it, right? Like, but you can still be optimal. There's women who feel better at this time in their life than they did when they were younger, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can feel better, but it's still coming to peace with the fact that, we're at this point.
Right. Knowing the difference between, okay, this is just me, my body, my brain saying I need to rest more, I just need to sleep and, let things kind of shift and rearrange versus, oh, this is a warning sign. Like when I was forgetting words like refrigerator and spoon, I would go into a room and just not know I was there. And I had extremely sharp memory. My brain was the thing I could count on. Like I could playing chess was my favorite game because I could, see all the moves. Like that's just, I really prided myself on how sharp my brain was. And when that started going away and I was thinking I had like early onset Alzheimer's, like you better believe that that's like an identity crisis. It freaked me out. I was just like, can I do my work anymore? Can I even be valid and like have anything to offer anymore if my brain is functioning like this? And that's when I realized like there's something, it's not right. Like there's something wrong here. And I don't want to say, I like to reframe it to say it's just a new awareness that needs attention. And so I needed to give that attention versus there's the level of like, you just need to rest more and your brain will come on versus like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the level of brain fog was for you, but I think I hear women talking. I've read in the comments in Facebook groups, like it can be so bad. You just can't even, it's not like I'm tired and I didn't sleep well. It's like you just can't form sentences. You don't even know what you've been doing. You just miss your work calls, right? Like it can be life disrupting. And so we want to do something about that.
Thank you for asking me because I've had moments like you. I have a really cerebral job. I've had lots of going to school, memorizing, test taking. I feel pretty with it. I'm informed. I will completely blank. And when I say forget, I, like you, was thinking, is this early signs of dementia? To that degree, happens more than I think. And it does not have a family history, but I was thinking, okay, this is just part of it. And I eat pretty good. I mean, I could always eat better. I'm working on that, but do the things. I see my doctor. I do, blah, blah. I do, on paper, but like you, it is a little concerning, like where I'll forget something and I'm thinking, I mean, completely. Like not, whoa, what was that? It's like you forget the entire train of thought. Like I'll walk into the bedroom. I'm like, why was I in this drawer? It's like really, it's comforting that you're sharing this with me. So,
well, it's common. Like it's one of the most common symptoms I come across is the brain fog and the memory loss. That's why I wanted to do something specifically for this because hot flashes, they're difficult for some women, but we can manage that. And there's a lot of easy things to do actually to manage that. But the brain fog can be a serious thing. And there is also the reframe, like I bridge the nutrition and the taking care of and optimizing your physiology, but also the identity and the beliefs around it, where I found what was really helpful was to actually just say, I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it. And it kind of like just gave me this permission and this freedom to just let my brain be the way it was and not fight it so much. And now that I've optimized it and I've figured out the nutrients, the food, the supplements that I do best with, my brain is on. Like I don't have the brain fog the same way. I definitely have slowed down, I don't need to be productive 8 hours in the day. That's just not the lifestyle I'm choosing anymore. But it's like sometimes we just have to let go of the slack, like give ourselves some slack and just be like, you know what? I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it. And while we're on this topic, I also want to mention how like nutrition is not just the food we eat, but it's also like what we consume on the screens, what we consume in the dramas of the world. Like that also takes energy to process, just like food takes energy to convert, right? So how much of that are you allowing into your space to convert, to try to process? And that's going to eat up your brain energy as well. So I noticed I had to really unsubscribe from all the newsletters. I had to just delete things from my phone. I made my phone a dumb phone for a while and made it all black and white, just like minimal sensory input so that my brain could actually come back online a little bit more. I don't know if you've experimented with that, with how much things can come at you and how you have to really filter so that you have more brain power.
1,000%. This month, I'm really trying to pay attention to where my attention's going, and I'm really tracking it, like where and how. Going to check something on your phone can lead to way more time than I'll go say to check email, but then something pops up, and then before you know it, you're on Instagram, and then you're scrolling. Just by checking email, I'm looking to see if something came in or whatnot. And then all of a sudden I'm on Instagram and I'm like, how did I end up here? Just by clicking this. I went into the Instagram this weekend, was trying to change my algorithm. Like, I don't want to see anything violent. I don't know. I'm just I don't want to see there's a time and place for politics. I want to be informed, but I want to do it on my own time. I just feel like every time I pick up my phone, I just really cutting down on notifications. And I don't need to know that at this moment. I mean, there was a time when breaking news truly was breaking news. Now everything is breaking news. So don't want to not be informed, but it's a little much and I am affected by it. Yeah.
You can't deny that, how it affects your cortisol, it affects your blood sugar. You'd be so surprised. It's crazy to think just having a thought raises your cortisol, right? And it has a whole host of things.
Yeah, but the whole consumption, and I'm trying to create more. That's a part of this podcast. I feel like I'm creating something.
Thinking about monitoring how much you are taking in, consuming. That's been high on my consciousness too. Is how much am I always wanting to, I love to learn. I do read a lot, but I also listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos. And it's just you do start to feel the imbalance, right? You're like, wait, I'm consuming way too much. Let me be a creator, which you're designed to be. Yeah, I love that. I love that you say that.
Thanks. Yeah. I'll start wrapping it up because I know I'll tell you, I have the best guests. I could sit here and talk. I want to honor your time. If somebody is at home and they're feeling stuck, whatever comes to mind, if somebody is at home and wants to make a change, whether it's incorporating something, taking away something, what's something that they could do in this moment?
What comes to mind? The first thing that came to mind when you said that was to make a choice. We waffle a lot. We're we don't really fully decide that we're going to do something. So what I find is once you've made the choice, I am doing this. There's a commitment of doing it. And then I think the next follow through for a lot of us that's very helpful is put it on the calendar. Even if it doesn't seem like something that needs to be on your calendar, put it on your calendar. There's just something that happens when you've like carved a space and time on your written calendar or your computer. It's like making a statement that this is important to me.
I see. Yeah, that's because it seems so final when you schedule something. Putting it in your calendar can be, I don't know, I was going through a phase where I'm like, oh, I don't want to schedule anything. I need to be fluid. It's like,
so even like when I want to go for a walk, I put on my calendar, or movement. Movement is on my calendar in little 15-minute increments. It's like I get to choose what I get to do in that movement time, what I'm inspired to do, but I need to move. And because it's a habit I'm wanting to get better at, it's just got to take place. Can do a lot of us a disservice, especially if our brains are a bit not typical. Having an environment that cues you, whether it's visually, a sticky note or pop up on your phone. I was like cultivating more joy with my daughter, and just like I had a little alarm that would go off that say, bring more joy. And it would just remind me, like loosen up. So.
Great. No, that is helpful. I need to schedule things in my phone. Okay, moving on. Yeah, I have to take some of this advice. Well, and how can people find you? How can they work with you?
You can go to sarahlynnwayne.com, and there's a couple different ways that I support women through an assessment, which is a personalized look at your situation and some feedback about what I'm seeing that will support you best with what's going on. So I offer the assessment, and then also the 3-day brain fog reset. I'm getting ready to do it live at the end of February. So that's going to be up. You can take a look at it, and I'm really excited for people to check that out.
Sounds great. I'm going to ask you, as it relates to hormones, some of the best and worst advice that you've ever received as it relates to eating for your for perimenopause or menopause.
Yeah, I would say that never hold your hat on just one ideology or one way of thinking. Like, always question and get second and third opinions. I think that, like, to be honest, that has been what has been the most valuable thing for me, is to not put all the weight on what one person says, but to even someone I love, adore, or trust, to also, and I say this to my clients all the time, don't believe everything I say. Don't take everything I say as gospel. I want you to push back, because maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something I don't know that you know about yourself. And it's really got to be a conversation. You've got to have someone who can be in conversation with you. And so the best advice is like, make sure you have someone who feels like they're on your team and they truly, genuinely care about your results, and they don't just see you as a number.
If there's anything that I did not talk to you about today, here's your chance. Is there anything that you felt like you wanted a message?
What comes through is to not settle for subpar. You really do have the ability to feel amazing in your midlife and as you age, and to question the beliefs that as we age, we suffer more, we have more pain. While that might be a reality, it doesn't have to be a reality. And there are people who are living healthier and more optimally in their 70s, in their 80s. I see them, I know them. I feel like I'm getting healthier every year. I want that to be a reality, and just know that that is a potential. And even if things look really bad or they look really painful right now, and you are under a lot of pain, things can shift instantly. When I was at the worst in my perimenopause, once I started implementing a few tweaks and changes that really aligned with me, within a week, I felt amazing. I mean, it went from being horrible to amazing. So I just want you to know how quickly things can turn around.
Well, thank you for that. So I think that will help a lot of people. And with that is a wrap of today's episode. And here's what matters, is that perimenopause and menopause are not just a failure for willpower. This is what I'm coming away with. It's basically a shift in our physiology that just asks for a different kind of listening. That feels true to me at this moment. So if something in this conversation resonated or felt true to you, stay with it. And if this supports you, follow, leave a review. Make sure you follow Sarah. And that's how these conversations are reaching the women who need them. So sit with it, listen, share, and will move things forward. From New York, this is Second Opinion, created and produced by me, Rosemarie Beltz, where science meets story and age is always your advantage. Until next time.